I was doing flips in the parking lot just because I was hyperactive. And the director came out and he asked my parents, he's like, oh, when is that guy going to audition? And they're like, oh no, his brother's auditioning. And they're like, no, but look at that. And they're like, that's just what he does. Like, he flips a lot. And so I went, and so he's like, we need somebody that can do that. So that's how I got into theater, was doing flips in a parking lot and, catching some director's attention. And really, I continued to do theater, but theater was, hang on, I'm trying not to break the table. Okay. Theater is something that I love and I enjoy it, but it was always a second thing for me. Like, I always had another job or another hobby. Like, it was either, my job or, when I was a teenager, it was skateboarding or whatever. There's even DJing and stuff. There was always something keeping me out of doing acting full time, but I did theater. And along the way, I started working with two actors specifically, Monica Rial and Chris Patton, on stage a lot. They're local. They're people that I've known Monica since she was in junior high school. And actually, I know Chris Patton just as long because Chris Patton used to come to a teen club I was a DJ at. So, and he would always come in his leather pants and do this ridiculous thing. I know, it's shocking. Chris Patton in leather pants. Who would have ever guessed that? But the funny thing is, I still did acting, and even though I was a huge anime fan, and funny, I was a subtitle-only fan, because I was, you know what, I tell people that's what you get when you're that big of a hater, because I was that guy that's like, I never watched any English, it's never as good as the Japanese, I hate English, like, and this is what I get for being such a hater. I do this for a living now. But I was doing a show with them, a really powerful show called Runaways, and they were working on casting a show called Spriggan at ADV. And Matt Greenfield was looking for somebody that sounded like a kid, but was not a kid. Because aside from people like Kevin Korn and Aaron Dismuke, as good as... if you've seen Aaron, he's not a kid anymore. He's like 7 feet tall. He's like a tree. He went from being a little boy to a tree. But I love him. I call him Midget. He's like a spazzy, like younger buddy. We always have marker wars when we're on autograph sessions, and we always write all over each other's necks and clothes. But they were looking for somebody young, and little kids, especially at the time. I mean, Kevin, that's where they actually discovered Kevin Korn. But kids can't work longer than 4 hours. There's all these rules about working with kids, so they're like, we want to find somebody older that sounds like a kid. And Monica said, oh my God, you have to call my friend. He works at a law firm as an IT guy, but he sounds like a little kid. And the first way anybody ever heard my voice at ADV, they called my voicemail at the law firm I worked at. And it was Stephen Foster. And I was going through my voicemail of like tech support calls, like, Ayres, my laptop's broken. Ayres, I need a PowerPoint presentation. Ayres. And then the third or fourth message is, oh my God, you sound just like a little child. And I was like, and all I could think of was like, what rude attorney is this? And then they told me it was Stephen Foster from ADV. And I went and auditioned, and it was down to Kevin Korn and I. We were the last two people for the role, and Kevin got the role, and luckily so, because he's a brilliant actor. But I continued to audition for another year before I got in. So even at the time that lots of anime was being dubbed, I worked a year without ever getting a part. And then my first role came in Steel Angel Kurumi. And I played like a little bratty, I got to play two characters. I got to play a little bratty kid, and my first yaoi, a specific character, Mikhail, who, if you haven't seen the show, I won't ruin it, but I will say that Claudia Black from Farscape and I share that role. So it's pretty cool. And it was funny because when I first heard her voice, I'm like, she and I sound nothing alike. And then I watched the show and I'm like, oh my God, we sound a lot alike. So if you haven't seen it, I will warn you, it's not a kid-friendly show. There's a lot of jiggly parts in that show. And unlike First Angel, the clothes do actually come off of the jiggly parts. So this is not a show for children. But that's how I got started. And the funny thing is, I was working full-time, and I was taking time off to do acting, because it was, again, just a side thing. And I was working on so many things, it was almost at the point where I was going to have to make a decision. And I pretty much decided I enjoyed acting, and if I could do this for a living for a while, that would be something new to do. And then the law firm that I worked for was the outside counsel for a very large oil and gas company that got in a lot of trouble. And while I can't say their name, it rhymes with Wenlon, so you do the math. And a bunch of us got laid off, so my choice was kind of made for me. I was like, well, I've got another job already, and I just started doing this full time. Sadly, the state of the anime industry is now that this has gone from being a full-time job to a part-time job to a hobby. Most of us that work, and even people like Vic and Johnny and people's names that you hear all the time, we used to record 5 and 6 days a week, and now we may work once or twice in a week, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks without work. But so I'm hoping definitely for a change, because I'd like to see not only more anime being produced, but the chance for other people to get a chance voice acting. Because right now it's impossible to get into this business, because there's really not a job to have right now. Yes, you've been so patient. That hand never went down. It was just like, I am the lone hand of the room. Yes. Hi.
I'm Shaky, and I have a Goku question.
Awesome.
During the series, Goku grows up so much. And,
Yeah.
And at one point, like in the manga, he actually briefly kisses a girl.
Good for him. He's only, what, 512 years old? Oh, I don't think I think Santo would love it if Goku left him. I don't think Goku would ever leave Santo's side, though, and not in any kind of yaoi-rific way. But Goku's a loyal dog to Santo. He really is his loyal pet. And as much as Santo thinks he's a tough guy, Goku knows that in a pinch, he's going to be the one that has to do all the fighting. And it's perfect because he loves fighting. That's what I loved about voicing that character. When he fights, when you do other characters, like when Chrono fights, or when any other character, many of my characters don't fight. My character in Ragnarok, when any of those guys fight, they're angry and they're almost scared. Goku fights like you and I play video games. Like, he enjoys fighting. It's like, yeah! Like, it's not, but he's like, yeah, let's fight. And so, he's fun I think that's why he'll never leave Santo's side. If there was a perfect match for him, though, I think Leading is a pretty cute, he and Leading make a cute couple, but I think they created them for that purpose. They're the male and female sidekick of each other, so, yes, with pink bunny ears. Oh, wow, alive or dead? That's a great question. Fortunately, she's still alive. And actually 2 of them. And so one of them might make some of you mad, and I don't care. But one of them is Lily Tomlin. I think she's one of the most phenomenal actresses we've ever seen in my lifetime. Because she was the first character actress I'd ever seen. She would do multiple roles, and I've seen her live, and she'll do 2 roles on stage, and the only difference is she turns in a different direction and speaks in a different voice. So she was really the first voice actor I ever remember, because I knew, like when I watched cartoons, I didn't physically think, oh, there's a person that does all these weird voices. I just thought, that's Daffy Duck. That's Daffy Duck. But she was the first person I put a face to, like, here is one woman and all these different characters come out of her. The other is Whoopi Goldberg. And sadly, because she doesn't do a lot of acting now, a whole generation of people will never know what a phenomenal actress she is. The show that she was discovered doing, she plays 5 individual characters, and every single one of them believable. And they all have different voices and different accents, and she's just phenomenal. And she, like me, has a big mouth, and she puts her politics out there, and a lot of people don't like her, and that's fine. I commend her for being brave and cool and having awesome hair. It's called, I think it's just called Whoopi. It was her Broadway show, and it was just called Whoopi. You can find it on, in fact, the DVD, there's a DVD DVD that is the 10-year anniversary of that show, and she did a new version of that show where a lot of those characters were revisited. But if you buy the DVD, it has the old show in it too. And it's just a real cool cartoon picture of her and her dreadlocks, and it's like a yellow box. It's real easy to find. But it's a phenomenal show. Yes, you with the